Good afternoon. Sorry, good evening. My name is James K. Holder II. Some of you may know me as Sir James II, and I'd like to welcome you back to Not on My Watch Live. If you are watching, today's date is Wednesday, September 6, 2017, and I'd like to ask you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this cast. I want you to retweet this and repeat this. And if you're watching, I'd like you to take this opportunity to let your friends know about this cast. I do want to quickly just tweet out that we are streaming live for my Twitter feed, which is @JKH2, and I'd invite you to do the same. Like I said, if you're watching, today is Wednesday, September 6th, 2017, and there is just a lot going on in the world. And what we want to do is quickly talk about some of the ways that we can help bring attention to the issues that are going on right now. Let's tweet this real quick. Without further ado, let's get started. As we know, one of the most tragic continuing issues within President Trump's administration is the treatment of the deferred action for children's DACA. I should have researched what that stands for, but DACA is a program that allows children of Mexican immigrants, or immigrants of really any nation, to arrive in the country and stay with deferred action for deportation. So that's actually, yes. To arrive in the... And so we really want to make sure that we're protecting those people, because you've got folks who were born outside of this country, arrived at the age of 1 or 10, or, you know, a very young age, know nothing of any other nation except the United States, have built lives here, formed relationships, gone to school here, and we have to make sure that we are protecting the dreamers. And so Donald Trump has announced through multiple mouthpieces, including Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, who we've talked about before many times on this show, that this is the program he intends to end within 6 months. So within that, there's been this frenzy of sort of responses to this. Now, mind you, this is all happening during the week of Hurricane Harvey, which rained down on the Gulf Coast mercilessly, led to, you know, billions of dollars in damage. Tons of people are displaced from this hurricane alone. In that span of time, Donald Trump managed to pardon Sheriff Arpaio, which is, you know, disgraceful enough on its own, right? You've got the racist Sheriff Arpaio, who's responsible for actually more deaths under his watch as in Arizona than in the prison system than Hurricane Harvey did in the United States. I mean, it's actually quite remarkable that this is what's happening and this is what people are supporting in this country. So that, among other things, Donald Trump used that hurricane as the cloak of night to pull the rug out from under these 800,000 Americans, who we affectionately refer to as the dreamers. So we want to be keeping these people in our thoughts, but more importantly, we want to be providing resources. Again, if you are an attorney, if you have access to a law firm, if you are in a position to offer counseling, pro bono services for anybody who might have challenges in the next 6 months, start thinking of how you can use your resources to help these people, because they're going to need it. Again, if it's not them, then perhaps their family members. There's a lot of different ways we can contribute to resolving this. But certainly one of the most effective ways will be to follow our Democratic leadership. Right now, you've got multiple leaders on the Democratic side, specifically Kamala Harris, of California, who is working very tirelessly to get the message out, to get people on board, to tell you again, lead the charge, the drumbeat on calling your senators, calling your representatives to get the DREAM Act passed. Now, what the DREAM Act would essentially do is sort of force, because DACA is, in my understanding, an executive order. It was something that Barack Obama put in place to protect, to defer action on, deportation or anything for a certain segment of the population that are legally described as immigrants. And so, what the DREAM Act would do would be a congressionally approved and legal form of protection that a president could not override. So it would take power away from Donald Trump to then enforce deportation further through the ICE force and Jefferson Beauregard Sessions' personal onslaught against black and brown people to further, bleach the United States countryside. So that should just be something that's on everybody's mind. But really, what's tragic is that you've got, on top of this, in every part of this country, we've got the wildfires in California. You got the wildfires all over that region, actually. They're in California, Oregon, Nevada. And there are people who are suffering, people who are losing their homes in California, in the West. You've got people who've lost their homes due to flooding from the Hurricane Harvey in Texas, specifically Houston and Beaumont and southeast Texas. But then you've also got now the approaching Hurricane Irma, which is heading directly for Florida, southern Florida specifically. And, it's very hard to not acknowledge that these are states that have very massive populations, many massive populations of brown people who would be impacted specifically by the repeal of DACA. And so we've got to be doubly sensitive to what's going on at the time. I mean, I think what we have in the resistance, and we kind of talked about this last week, that it's not just about what Donald Trump is going to do or what Donald Trump is going to say or what the administration plans to do. We have to be careful because there is a constant bearing down right now on the Latinx community, whether they're of Mexican heritage, whether they're of any other cultural signature there. We have to be protective of them because right now it's them, next it's going to be us. So we can't just turn a blind eye from the natural disaster side and also the political side, because both are terrifying and essentially terrorizing our neighbors and our fellow citizens, as far as I'm concerned. Now, with this becomes another problem because along with Irma, now Irma is a tropical storm that formed sort of where they all form, basically Central Atlantic Ocean in the tropics. And then it made its way through, it's making its way through the Caribbean now. There are conflicting reports about damage in Antigua. We don't really know exactly where we are with that, but some reports coming out of Antigua are saying that everybody's fine, there was no damage, thank God the hurricane went over us. But then there's some saying that there's like monumental damage in that part of the Caribbean. So we want to keep those people in our thoughts and our prayers. But also just within the United States, what are we doing to each other? Earlier today, a lot of outrage came out as a result of the fact that airlines, as people were starting to realize, okay, they've got to evacuate from Florida. I've got some friends in the region who are evacuating. What's going on, Sharice and Ryan? And Reagan. I hope y'all are safe. But we've got some friends and people we don't know who are being taken advantage of, whether it's Amazon selling water for more money than they should be selling it for, whether it's shortages in gas, which always happens, and that's not necessarily an intentional thing, but just flights out of Florida skyrocketed, overnight. And you see all these people in outrage over social media about Delta Airlines charging really $1,500 and more north of $1,500 to fly to normal places like out of Fort Lauderdale and out of Miami. And so we've got to be holding these service providers accountable, because it's getting to the point now where it's bad enough that Mother Nature is exacting her revenge on us, but then you've also got our entire political establishment working against us, and now you've got the companies that we rely on for safe travel, for water, for different places to go, that are just ultimately turning their backs on us in our time of need, as we're dealing with all this stuff at the same time. So I'm happy to report that as of 5 minutes before I started this cast, your work on Twitter and on social media in shaming these companies has gotten them to actually agree to stabilize fares over the next few days out of Florida. So I'm happy to report that JetBlue is offering flights no more than $99 to $159 out of, I believe, Fort Lauderdale. You've got American Airlines. I don't know why anyone would ever fly American Airlines, but hey, if that's where you got to go, that's where you got to go. They're offering flat rate flights of $99 out of Miami. And this story literally broke on CNN at like 7:29. So we came on at 7:30. That was a delayed start, but there's a lot of irons in the fire right now. Delta is offering flights at no more than $399. And now Delta's the shady one, right? Because Delta was the one that was trying to sell tickets for the most out of all the airlines, but they're now saying that these are flights up for $399. But the catch is that they're letting you, this includes first class. So you might, while you're fleeing your home with nothing more than the clothes on your back, you'll be in first class and getting free drinks. I mean, I think people have more important things to worry about, but we'll take what we can get at this point. Now, I do want to also talk about another opportunistic way that people are taking advantage. And I just want to double check our feed here because my computer is like kind of doing double duty right now. And I am exporting episode 2 of Not On My Watch. So good. And I want to make sure that, episode 2 of The Counter, and I want to make sure that everything is sort of working and being cross-promoted. The Polk County Sheriff. These sheriffs, they really, really are a piece of work. And I want to read to you an excerpt. Let me see if I can find this. Polk County Sheriff. This is actually a tweet from the sheriff of Polk County. This is in Florida. If you go to first one was, if you go to a shelter for Irma, be advised, sworn law enforcement officers will be at every shelter, checking IDs. Sex offenders, predators will not be allowed. Okay, now, I kind of understand that. But then it turned it, which not really, but I get it. Sex offenders, unfortunately, have, committed vile crimes, but at the end of the day, they're still human. So if you're not taking sex offenders in shelters, what are their options? Are they just going to die? Are they meant to just be cast aside in that way? I think we have to be more sympathetic as a society than this. But that's not it. This thread continues. He goes on to tweet as a retweet and says, if you go to a shelter for Irma and you have a warrant, we'll gladly escort you to the safe and secure shelter called the Polk County Jail. Now, this is, again, we are operating within a space of sort of profiting off of criminality of people. And it's not just, doesn't just happen in hurricanes, it happens in all kinds of opportunities where these law enforcement officers, rather than focusing and prioritizing on protecting people, making sure that people have the resources that they need and are safe, they're just sort of antagonizing people with often petty things on their record. It could be parking tickets. You're talking about you show up at a shelter so that you don't die in a hurricane or drown to death, and you're going to be arrested. We have to get past that. I remember in Georgia, in the past election, some of the counties were trying to have elections had their precincts as jails. And now you got to go into this jail, you got to pass law enforcement officers, people are checking your IDs. They were, it's just an intimidating thing where you could be matching somebody to a list or a database to, if I go to exercise my franchise and vote, now you're pulling up charges on parking tickets and speeding tickets to arrest me when I go to vote. Or when I go to escape hellfire and fury from what's going on in this country right now. And I think that's really tragic. We have to get past that as a nation. So those are just a couple things that I noticed. If you are in the path of either of these storms, please find your way to safety as best as you can afford. The storm, as of the last report, was greater than the size of the state of Ohio. And this is to the point where I'm thinking over here in Atlanta, we're safe and we're cool. But then like somebody put like a map, a diameter overlay of like when this storm passes over Florida, that it's the outskirts of the storm would still be touching Atlanta and metro Atlanta and really covering most of Georgia. So we've got to be really empathetic towards one another in this time because we are dealing with some serious issues. I'm going to go ahead and move on and talk about Hillary's book. Now, I do not have an excerpt of this pulled up on the screen, but I will just take that one off. And I got to tell you, I cannot wait for this book. I'm literally giddy because just the sheer amount of frenzy over the excerpts that are coming out and the comments. I mean, it is just the cash cow for the pundits and journalists who got us into this mess, who spent all of 2016 harping on emails, harping on unfavorability polling, and despite the outrage about DACA, despite the outrage about the pardoning of Sheriff Arpaio, you still got people who are vilifying Hillary Clinton for just writing a book. I mean, come on. It's truly outrageous and disgraceful. So I just want to read you a quote, or an excerpt. This is one of the funnier excerpts from this book. And actually, let me see if I can pull this up on the screen. We are working with new technology here, and I will try to see if I can get this quickly onto the screen by first airdropping this to my iPad. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is going to airdrop. It did. Okay, good. All right. We are going to edit this episode and make it right once and for all. So, briefly, I want to read your excerpt from Hillary's book. And this is going to come out very shortly. She's already going to she has an interview scheduled for this weekend. That's going to be pretty exciting. And so I just want to quickly talk about this. The excerpt reads, Jack Sullivan, my top policy advisor, told me it reminded him of a scene from the 1998 movie, There's Something About Mary. A deranged hitchhiker says he's coming up with a brilliant plan. Instead of the famous 8-minute abs exercise routine, he's going to market 7-minute abs. It's the same, just quicker. Then the driver, played by Ben Stiller, says, well, why not 6-minute abs? That's what it was like in policy debates with Bernie. We would propose a bold infrastructure investment plan or an ambitious new apprenticeship program for young people, and then Bernie would announce basically the same thing, but bigger. On issue after issue, it was like he kept proposing 4-minute abs, or even no-minute abs, magic abs. Someone sent me a Facebook post that summed up the dynamic in which we were caught. Bernie, I think America should get a pony. Hillary, how would you pay for the pony? Where will the pony come from? How will you get Congress to agree to the pony? Hillary thinks America doesn't deserve a pony. Bernie supporters, Hillary hates ponies. Hillary, actually, I love ponies. Bernie supporters, she changed her position on ponies. Hashtag which Hillary, hashtag which Hillary. Headline, Hillary refuses to give every American a pony. Debate moderator, Hillary, how do you feel when people say you lie about ponies? So it's just going to be really fascinating to see her take on the entire melee that we found ourselves in, political melee that we found ourselves in 2016, where we really had an incompetent and defunct media operation working to make sure that the first woman nominated to a major party, to be the nominee for a major party, was just sort of diminished materially in every single way. It's kind of like every time she tried to do something, there was some reason why what she did was wrong. And so I think the book raises a lot of questions. And of course, a lot of people are upset about the information that's surfacing, the excerpts that are surfacing. In one quote, she actually questions Barack Obama's decision to not further, illustrate the danger of the Russian hacking in the election, which of course proposed major headlines and news organizations to then say that she's obsessed with Russia and she can't get over it. But none of us should be getting over it. We should be really, really focused on the Trump-Russia investigation and make sure that our electoral process is protected moving forward. Because if we still have this nefarious operation going on, we know as of today that Facebook admitted that they had sold ads to a Russian media organization that essentially was, trying to influence the election. We know that Facebook was compromised as of today. So, let's not turn a blind eye to this. It is really going to be important that we focus and take heed to what she's saying in this book if we're going to have a chance to, one, have fair elections moving forward, whether it's in 2018 or 2017 in gubernatorial races, 2018 for House and Senate, or 2020 in the next presidential election. We've got to make sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's in terms of making sure that the dangers that are out there we're not continually succumbing to those dangers. Quite briefly, I want to talk about our new program, Headshots for Hunger. In the wake of all the disastrous hurricanes and specifically with Harvey in Houston, I was sort of very moved, in part by my call to action with everyone on last week's episode of Now on My Watch, to do something more than just talk about it, do something more than just text to the American Red Cross. And so I did resurrect a program that I ran several years ago. In 2010, when, as a result of the Haitian earthquake, I did a fundraiser that raised $10,000 to benefit the American Red Cross and also Yale, Haiti. The promotion basically was a cross promotion with my photography work as an artist, where I offered to give free headshots to anyone who donated to the cause. So we're bringing that back, that model back, and it was very successful. It worked pretty quickly. And so as of now, through the program Headshots for Hunger, which you can visit at www.headshotsforhunger.com, you can donate $100 or more directly to the Houston Food Bank at www.houstonfoodbank.org/donate. And in exchange, I will take a headshot of you and offer you 2 retouch headshots for your donation. And that will be offered in my Atlanta studio, which is in Castleberry Hill. If you are not in the Atlanta area and you still want to contribute, please feel free to make a donation in any amount to the Houston Food Bank. They are just a phenomenal organization, and I wanted to definitely put a spotlight on one that had a very, very good reputation. They are above reproach. For every dollar donated to this organization, they are able to provide a day's worth of meals. That's 3 meals to one of their recipients in the southeastern Texas region. So please keep our neighbors in Houston and surrounding areas in mind in the coming days. As Irma approaches, I will be looking to expand this program to include charities as a part of the exchange that will be servicing the Florida as well as other impacted regions, depending on where Hurricane Irma has impact in the next coming days and weeks. I want to, we'll show a clip of that briefly. Wrapping up our first shoot. This is the first shoot for Headshots for Hunger to benefit Harvey victims. Tim, why don't you tell me a little bit about like what motivates you to get involved in?
Currently, I live in New York, and it seems almost a world away, and it's really easy to be complacent and say, you know, let's just wait for the news cycle to turn one time, and you know, all these images will be out of sight, out of mind. When it comes to the pain that people are going through, the physical loss, the loss of family members, those things never go away for those people. And this is really just a small way for me to get involved, and I could honestly we could all do way more. I appreciate you for vetting this particular charity and giving us a place where we can put our money, where we know that it's going to go to people who really need it, and that's people who are hungry in a time like this.
But then also, I want to encourage you to make sure that you tune into the episode 2 premiere of The Counter. That will air tomorrow. The goal is to get it up and online by 4 p.m., but as we know, things happen. So I will work my hardest to have that up for you by Thursday evening. And that will be visible at www.thecounter.com. If you watched the pilot episode that debuted 2 weeks ago, you're in for a treat. It is a wonderful program. We worked really, really hard on it, and I'm still working on it. I would encourage you all to become a producer level sponsor to that show if you're interested or able. To do so, I would need you to donate. Let me make sure this mic is on. There's been a lot going on today. Yes, my mic is still on. My mic sounds nice. Check 1. I would encourage you to donate $100 to paypal.me/jkh2. That helps to really make sure that that program is funded. It comes out on time. Still having issues with the mic. Ordered a mic. It has not arrived yet. Working on it. And so there's improvements that I'm trying to make on the show. Thankfully, we had Lee W of California who donated his GoPro camera for use. And so I was able to make some of the improvements on that episode from the previous malfunctions that happened on the pilot. So, you know, I thank you all for bearing with me in this whole program, this process, and, you know, just being patient as we figure things and shore things up in this expansion. I want to take this opportunity to thank Jan B, who became our next producer level sponsor of The Counter by donating to www.paypal.me/jkh2. And I also want to thank our other friends to the show who donated any amount this week to www.paypal.me/jkh2. That is Nuria G, Elizabeth C, Kim W, and Nilda U, all of whom are repeat donors to the show. So thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you'd like to support Not On My Watch or The Counter, you can make a donation at any amount to that link today. Thank you for bearing with us today with these technical difficulties. I look forward to seeing you next week on Not On My Watch Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. With that, I'd like to ask you to relax, relate, and resist. Thank you.